Tim, we got Colby here. What do you want to ask him?
Reaching back to your early days, what was your first deal?
My very first deal was my first house. I bought it 25 years old. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, it was another job. It was just like, why do this? But looking at it and from the multifamily perspective, yes, it makes sense because the bigger the property, the easier it is to get a loan. If you have 10 units under one roof and 2 of them are vacant, well, guess what? You can probably still pay the mortgage and put them in. And so my first multifamily was a 15 unit. And, I've learned a lot. I made a huge amount of mistakes off of it. Mm-hmm. But, I'm going to make money. I'm getting ready to sell it.
Welcome to the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe with Four Oaks Capital. Another one of our Ask the Expert episodes today. And, I'm always excited to do another podcast episode. Today, we've got Colby Bowers and Tim Dooley on the line with us. So Colby, we'll hit you first. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Glad to be here. And hey, congratulations on the retirement. I like the look.
I know. You can tell exactly how long it's been since I retired by the length of my hair and my beard. So I haven't cut my hair or shaved my chin since I got my D214. So I'm not sure how long that's going to last, though. I'm not going to do that forever, but I appreciate it. With that said, Colby, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So Brian, just like you, I spent over 20 years in the military. I retired from the Air Force, just finished up my first retirement enlistment. Mm-hmm. So just a little over 4 years and enjoying the retired life. But I was a medic, did a lot of deployments. When I was doing all those deployments, I'm like, I wanted to kind of get into the real estate, and this was before the 2006 market. Mm-hmm. And so I just started like everyone else has, got into single family homes, did some fix and flips, and, started realizing that, I wanted to get into bigger and better things. I wanted to really get into that, the commercial world, but wasn't really sure how to. And so fast forward a couple of years when I actually retired, had a little bit more time and lacked direction, just like most retirees from the military, is like, what do I want to do now?
Yeah.
And so I started attending some commercial real estate, some boot camps, met some great mentors, asked a lot of questions, learned what I could, and actually ended up jumping in with both feet into the commercial real estate back in 2017.
Nice.
So yeah, and this year's been a good year. I've closed on 4 deals this year, totaling about 134 units.
Nice.
And this sits around my portfolio, sitting right close to, I think right at 640 doors total across about 30 states.
Well, coincidentally, we are at 629. So we're neck and neck as far as total doors. But nice. Yeah. So for this year, you've had a pretty good year then.
It was a good run. Yeah, we kind of COVID caused us to kind of draw back a little bit and look at our process, and we realized that our process wasn't the best when it came to deal sourcing. So we kind of pivoted and took a look at it and really did a huge direct to seller campaign. Nice. And so all 4 of these properties are direct to seller, so no brokers involved whatsoever.
Nice. Yeah, that's convenient if you can get that worked out, because the brokers, I don't know, I have a love-hate relationship with brokers. I love them because they can introduce you to a lot of owners and they almost control the deals, but I hate them because a lot of times the communication, sometimes they're a barrier to communication. But yeah, if you can go direct to owner, I think there's a lot of goodness in that. So if you would, tell us a little bit about how you approach the direct-to-owner campaign.
Yeah, so just like everyone else, we borrowed, and from different sources. So everyone that I knew that had a, either a Reonomy, CoStar, any kind of account. I bribed them with bourbon, cigars, anything that would get them to send me a list, so I didn't have to pay all that money.
Mhm.
And from there, we turned that into a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, into the markets that we were interested in. And we just broke them down into basically two formats. One, we had 100 units and below, and then had 100 units and above. And because our approach is a little bit different, you know, a direct to seller, someone that owns, in my experience in my markets, if they have less than 100 units, typically, you know, they may not be as sophisticated. You're more of a mom and pop, you know, just smaller. It's been in the family. You know, it's not that nothing against them, but our approach is going to be different than if we're reaching out to an actual company that has, you know, 150 unit apartment complex. So we just started dialing it in and sent mailers. Got some good responses back. Really started making good headways when we hired a virtual assistant, and realized that, you know, I hate rejection. I don't know if it just comes back from high school and all that, but, you know, making all those cold calls wasn't fun. I hate that. So turned it over to a VA who is a lot better at making those calls and stuff than I am. And they hand me off the warm leads. So when I'm going in, you know, it's somebody that's interested, building that rapport, and, you know, and finding out their pain points. And that's been, especially with COVID and the way the market has been, it's not, you know, it's not about the price. Obviously price does play a thing. It's not like you're going to be able to steal a property by underpaying, but, you know, going in and finding out, well, what are they wanting to do? Are they trying to retire? Do they want to avoid capital gains? You know, do they want a lump sum? You know, you just kind of find out what are their needs and wants and desires. And then we would adjust our offer and everything to fit that, try to, you know, solve the problems for them.
Yeah, I love that. Now, a lot of people talk about, you know, the direct to owner campaign being a numbers game. And if you don't have exact numbers right now, I'll forgive you. But for the 4 that you purchased direct to owner this year, how many original calls do you think you made, or how many people started out on that list?
Oh, easily, our VA and stuff probably called well over, I'd say probably pushing 1,000 owners.
All right. So, I mean, if you look at the overall return rate, and I think a lot of people are dissuaded from that because of the number of calls you have to make, but, you know, 1,000, so you're about 250 roughly calls per property is
per closing.
Per closing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You have a lot of folks that are interested in selling, you know, for the right number, but, you know, to actually get to closing, yeah, we're around that, probably that, what, 4%, like I said, 250 to 1. But we're probably, you know, out of 250, we can get it down. I mean, I want to say, you know, we get about 10 to 15 warm leads. Okay. And then, but most of those, again, are just folks that are like, here's my number. You know, I don't need to sell or want to sell, but, you know, if you pay me this, I'll sell.
Yep. Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, I like that. And, you know, you hired a VA to do a lot of the dirty work, and something you said, I think I really keyed in on, is you're not very good at that type of call, and it's very time consuming. So I think you did the smart thing there. You hired somebody else who was good at it, and, you know, basically sends you the warm leads. So out of 250 calls, you're talking to maybe 10 people, and turn those 10 people into one closing. So love the process you had set up.
Thanks. It's worked. We're just trying to grow it and keep it going.
Yeah. All right. So one question I like to ask everybody, and looking more for people's motivation, because I found in my life, you know, when I have kind of a deep-seated why, I've always been a lot more successful. So what is your big burning why?
You know, I agree 100%. I think getting into this, if you're in it just for the materialistic piece of it, or for money, I think you're going to get burnt out and you're going to get chewed up and spit out in this industry. You know, your why has to be a little bit more founded than just that. You know, like 23 years in the military, you know, I enjoyed being a part of something bigger than myself. And so really is coming in, that's my why is coming in is, you know, it's obviously it's about the money, right? We wouldn't be doing this, we wouldn't be entrepreneurs, but it's not the end all be all. For me, it's more the satisfaction. So like mine is creating that community. So any community market I go into, it's, how can I give back to the community? One thing that I do with Veteran Pride Investment Group is I donate 20% of my company's profits back to veteran and first responder charities. We also look at in those communities, instead of having all, market rent, we try to keep a portion. Our goal is 10%. Right now we're hovering about 5% cross portfolio and trying to increase it. But set aside is, like HUD VASH. So for potential homeless veterans, and then also Section 8. So keeping that affordable housing. And with that, I do this full time, but that just wasn't enough. And my why, like I said, my why is to giving back and doing something greater myself. And this is where, and we talked about this briefly before we talked, but I started a nonprofit last year with my wife. Just got back from Kilimanjaro with myself and 3 other wounded warriors, active duty, and a local first responder from Colorado, and summited it. And so we're going to kick off a 5 to 7 year research project into traumatic brain injury. So those are my big passions. And, doing real estate helps me focus on those passions, so I don't look at this as a 9-to-5 job, but the fact that, I got to go spend 3 weeks in Tanzania, or 2 weeks in Tanzania. And, I didn't have to worry about punching a time clock or putting in for leave. I just coordinated my schedule and went, well, I had to get permission from my wife, but other than that, I didn't have another boss.
Yeah, and that's one thing I do love about being full time in this business, and I just transitioned full time. Is you have a lot more flexibility than you do in a W-2 job, and we're going to be taking our kids 2 weeks from now to Disney World. Going to Orlando. I've never been to Orlando, so we're going to Orlando, taking the kids, and didn't have to ask anybody permission. It's just, hey, let's go to Disney World. But anyway, I love the project you have done, and we obviously talked about it earlier, and I think it's amazing the type of stuff that you're doing. And I may have had a little FOMO every time I thought of you at Kilimanjaro, but anyway, let's talk about a specific deal right now, if you wouldn't mind. Pick one of your first, one of your most recent, or one of your favorites, and tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I got one I'm really excited about now. It's a smaller property. It's 20 unit. Again, got it direct to seller. And we just closed on it in July. And we're basically going to do a total gut remodel on this. Like we brought it down to 0 occupancy. And we're just going to go in and knock all this out. But what we're going to do is instead of turning it back into long-term rentals, we are actually turning it into a corporate rental. And basically this due to its proximity. It's literally across the street from 3 major hospitals, including a VA center.
Yeah.
And it's we're looking at by our conservative projections are within 24 months is basically we're going to double the LOI, which is going to turn around and literally double the value of this property. And so we're looking at doing a cash out refinance at that point. And we'll have probably actually have 100% of our investors' equity, our equity. And we're actually in talks with 2 of the hospitals. They may actually, and they're seriously considering doing a master lease. So we don't even have to worry about property management. They put the people in there, even if they sit empty, they're paying us each month. We just make sure that they're cleaned, taken care of. So really excited about that, and the cash flow. It's one of those ones that everyone's like, salivates over, and it's like, man, that's that true home run. And so knock on wood, we got the renovations going and started, and we've got a lot of interest in it already. We've kind of been putting some teasers out there for rentals and for our prices. And so we're really excited to see how this one plays out over the next 12 to 18 months.
That sounds awesome. Sounds like a lot of fun, and I think with the executive rentals, you're obviously going to get a higher price. I assume these are going to be furnished, so a little more money going in, but the short-term rental or the executive rentals, you're going to get a higher price. You're going to get a better tenant. They're going to stay for a little longer period than your short-term rentals. I think there's a lot of good reasons to go that route. So sounds like an amazing little deal. That said, what's next for you?
Yeah, so I get that asked all the time. Well, you guys closed 4 deals. What's next? And I'll be honest with you. I'm taking a book out of Kilimanjaro trip, and why this is important is, being on that mountain for 8 days, no cell signal or anything, was phenomenal. And the guides in Swahili, they call it pole pole. And really what that means is it's take your time. It's to go slow and enjoy the ride, enjoy the mountain. That's what they kept stressing with this. Let's go slow. And, one is it gets you to the summit, so you don't overexert yourself, but yeah, you get to stop, look around, take pictures, enjoy the views and stuff. And so that I took from that is because, I was kind of burnt out this year, 4 deals, and these are complete gut remodels, just about. They're all renovations. So it's a lot of time. It's just, man, it's a lot of time away from the family and stuff. So long story short is what I'm doing is I'm going to pulley for the next 90 days. So I'm going to go slow. I'm focusing on the properties that I have, getting them stabilized, and enjoying family time. And so that's the rest of this year. But 2022, what I'm really excited about with my team and what we're looking at is we're looking to launch our first fund. So trying to do a fund of funds. And what's going to be unique about this is it's not going to be 100% dedicated towards real estate. Obviously, that's going to be probably about 80% of it. But we're also looking at investing in other companies.
Okay.
And one real aspect that I'm excited about with this is I'm going to be working and leading. So we got a nice team, big team working on this. But I'm going to kind of be the lead and primary focus of looking at veteran and first responder entrepreneurs and how can we support them and potentially invest in their companies.
Nice.
So that's coming down the pipe sometime in 2022. We're looking to launch it and looking at 4 to 6 more deals next year on the real estate side, and looking at about that 150 to 200 doors.
All right. Awesome. Sounds amazing. I wish you the best of luck with that one.
Thanks.
Well, let's shift gears and introduce Tim. So Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I have a background in marine engineering. From the time I was a kid, my father, who was a chief engineer, also held the golden shovel at the groundbreaking for the World War II memorial, representing the merchant marine from World War II. I was groomed to be an engineer on ships. I sailing unlicensed 2 years because I failed the color vision test for Kings Point, if you know what that is. And I sailed 2 years, entry level, pushing a broom, cleaning up, learning some of the tools and following the engineers around. And I finally got accepted to Mass Maritime, graduated, sailed. And when I quit sailing, I worked for a civilian branch of the Navy, and they stepped up the game. You're gone for 6 months at a time. When you came back to the States, you were in port, but it wasn't like you used to be in port. You're all of a sudden in port Monday to Friday, out to sea Monday to Friday, and in for the weekend. You never get to see your family. So I had to come shoreside, and there was no money in it. It was very stressful. So worked on my marriage. That eventually failed. And for me, starting out, a lot of the money was going to my ex. I saw myself living hand to mouth, trying to pay rent, and then eventually trying to afford a place. So my realtor says, "Why don't you think about buying a duplex?" He says, the term house hacking, I haven't heard of it until about 2 or 3 years ago. This was in 2012. So between 2012 and 13, we hunted everywhere, missed out on a few, bummed me out, finally found a place centrally located in Virginia Beach. Place was decrepit. It was built in 79, and they did very little, if anything, that maybe throwing paint around. There was no shrubbery, nothing inviting. And I'm going into low power mode, even though I'm plugged in. I don't know what's going on with that. Nice. I think I have enough to finish this up. But anyway, so I got this duplex. It was in deplorable condition. I tapped into my 401k to make the repairs, got the equity out to cover the cost, and then also help pay for my daughter's time at college with this. And this slowly made repairs in my place, doing everything myself. Bought a set of cabinets locally from a guy who was getting rid of them for $1,000. It would have cost me $15,000 at Home Depot. Same exact. Put those in myself. Made a couple of extra features. I'm very handy. I got woodworking skills. I got electrical skills. Everything from shipping that would make home repair doable. But I couldn't do it all. 4 years later, a property came available next door. I'm like, oh, good. Woman wanted to get rid of it. Got it at a good deal, but she used to house sit dogs, and the place stuck to high heaven. Carpeting was trashed, flooring was trashed. My parents were supposed to move down here. It didn't happen. So I met a really fine woman, and we hit it off. We're now engaged. She moved in, got rid of the smell of the dog with like 20 gallons of apple cider vinegar, learned a lot of tricks about doing things on the fly. And now I got it down to a 15-year mortgage and rent is at 14. And now I just heard stupid base housing in this area is 1350. You got to goose it up to at least 16.
Yep.
So the place I'm fixing next door, I'm putting all new cabinets in finally, put architectural doors in. I'm going into pocket again out of my 401k to make this happen. But I know I'll get it back when I do my taxes next year.
Yeah. So you got a little bit of traction.
I've got traction. And then I bought another place down the street where my fiance went a 2-bedroom into a 3-bedroom, and we turned it into a 4-bedroom. So it's got some issues. They had used reclaimed bricks on the chimney, a lot of water issues, but I got such a great deal on it when I went to refinance and pull the money out, it covered all that. So I've been very fortunate. I feel like I'm living hand to mouth trying to make all this happen. I'm also helping her out because she started the tax business. She's very good. She knocks me over my head when I'm not doing things right with my paperwork, getting my LLC all right. I've aborted that. We make a good team. And eventually when we move into our own forever house, we tie the knot a year, these properties will pay for the next house, but I want to take it to the next level. I'm chomping at the, I missed out on a 4-unit property in Norfolk on 38th Street. And it would have definitely been a spine breaker with COVID hitting. So I'm glad that didn't go through. So yeah, but I want to go multifamily or go to an apartment complex. I've got some good contact, hard money loans, but my bookkeeping is deplorable. My fiance is still learning her craft with the taxes, and she's saying I should have a separate LLC per property. I had gone to one of these Nevada LLCs, and between her entourage of friends in the tax business beat me up to hell. So I got it in Nevada. I scrubbed it. I wasted probably $4,000 or $5,000 doing all that. And I'm going to go organic and stay local with LLC. Yeah. But I don't think I need to have an LLC per property. I think, isn't there a way to do one? And S Corp, she was all over me for the S Corp. So I need to learn the ropes. I need a mentor. Membership is definitely where I think I can benefit most, being hot in the fire and learning on the fly. That's what I learned best.
All right. Well, let's see if we can give you a little bit of advice on how to get the next step. So, I mean, Tim, we got Colby here. What do you want to ask him?
Colby, so reaching back to your early days, I mean, what was your first deal?
My very first deal was my first house. I bought it 25 years old. Paid a little over $100,000 and was scared list. But that was a lot of money back then. But once I went through that process, that's I got into the single family because I'm like, hey, I could easily get loans and stuff for them. So like I said, started out, cut my teeth and stuff on single family, a couple duplexes, triplexes here and there. And I'll tell you what, one of the holdbacks to that is you don't have really a lot of economy of scale. So with that being said, I was paying 10% for property management on each process, right? Because I was still active duty, I was deploying, I was moving around the country. So I couldn't actively manage them myself successfully. So that, that eats in. But then, with the single family home, it's either 100% occupied or it's 100% vacant.
Right.
So there's no in between. And then I started looking at the profit margins and I was like, man, I'm only making, couple $100, couple $1,000 a year per property per unit. And I'm like, man, this is, I'm going to be it was another job. It was just like, why do this? But looking at it and from the multifamily perspective, yes, I mean, it makes sense because the bigger the property, the easier it is to get a loan, which is, it's counterintuitive, but
It's true though.
also, if you have 10 units under one roof and 2 of them are vacant, well, guess what? You can probably still pay the mortgage.
Yep.
And put them in. And so, so that's was the solid thing. And so my first unit, or my first multifamily out by myself that I took down was a 15 unit. And, I've learned a lot. I made a huge amount of mistakes off of it, but, I'm going to make money. I'm getting ready to sell it and move on. But it was a great one. It was a great property to cut my teeth on.
Yeah.
So
nice.
So yeah, so my thing is go multifamily as soon as you can. You'll start seeing the benefits because the same amount of work you're doing for single family in those duplexes, you can do for 10 plus units, 20 plus units, 50 plus units. And it's you'll see the payments coming in a little bit that make it worth that at that time.
Yeah. So you went to property manager, sure, though. You couldn't juggle it all yourself. There's no way.
Right. Yeah. Even now, I don't do property management. I've tried it. I did a little bit of it when I had a couple single family homes close to me. I hate it. I don't want to get those phone calls at midnight, that hey, my toilet's leaking or whatever. I do everything third party management, but what's great on the multifamily side, especially when going back to the economies of scale, I start buying 2, 3, 4, 5 properties in one area. My property management costs start going down. So now instead of 10% for a single family, I'm having paid over 8% for a single multifamily for third party property management. Knock on wood. And the more I'm getting and the economies of scale, I'm getting it down. Some places I'm paying 4 to 6%. Yeah. But
nice.
I have 7,500 units. They're multiple things, so they all feed off of each other.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a very young 60. My dad made it to 95 and he gave up his law practice at 89. So I know I've got a good bloodline. I've got a lot of energy. I'm still holding up very well, but I'm looking at hard money loans, private money loans to make it happen. I think I've made some good connections, and I don't know if I should tap on you guys, stuff that you use, but I have no fear. I think it's a blessing and a curse because I'm not jump right in.
Yep.
And if I learn all the way, sure, what the hey,
Yep.
You get with a 2x4 enough times, you know when to duck. So I'm very passionate about jumping in, but my fiance, God bless her, she supports me, but she's very fearful and like, why do you want to buy more? Why are you doing this? And I can't get her to see that, my 401k took hit when I came shoreside for the first 5 years because I stopped giving to it. Then during divorce, my ex gets half, and then she gets my pension. I'm like, this is not. I was very comfortable as a Marine engineer working in the merchant Marines, making crazy money, and now I'm back to being a landlubber, and I need to step my game up. I want to be a chief engineer of my own domain, and not have to worry about tapping into my 401k. I want to see the 401k grow, or not even worry about it. 401k, that's my drinking money. And let the property build that for me. That's where I know that's my next step. But since I'm still working for the government, I got a great gig right now, but it's going to end in about 6 or 8 months. And they're probably going to put me into a position where I'm working much more than I am right now. And I need to step back and either jump into I really don't want to retire yet. I don't think it's a smart move. It's good to have that extra month, but I do want to step up my game and just venture out and maybe just start with an 8 unit. There was a 10 unit down in Beach oceanfront, and I thought it's too soon, so I'm going to wait until January to start my hunt. My boss already said, please don't do anything until May or April when the projects calm down. He's very good. He's a Mass Maritime grad like myself, and he's very good about letting me get out, venture out, and look around, and make up for lost time at night or earlier in the morning. But yeah, I'm ready to make that jump come January.
Nice.
Start the search, look, find, and make a commitment with someone who could help me make it happen, and then refinance it, whatever I got to do, parlay it into another one.
Yeah. What's your biggest hang up right now? What's your biggest roadblock? And see if we can work you through it.
Bookkeeping. My fiance, I need to have a separate bank account for each property, which I think is ludicrous.
I think it helps. We do. I don't think you don't absolutely have to, but I think it makes the books a lot cleaner when you have a separate bank account for each property, and especially if you have a separate LLC. I don't know how do you guys do it, Colby?
Yeah. So Tim, and I think your fiance is correct, but I think what you're thinking at is there's two ways to look at this. One is I think you're looking at this too small scale. So yes, if you're just going out and buying a couple duplexes, a little 8-unit here and stuff like that, small stuff, do you need to have, multiple LLCs and stuff like this? Maybe, maybe not. That's a discussion to have with your accountant and an attorney, because besides the accounting piece of it and the bookkeeping side of it, there's legal sides for protections and stuff as well. I will tell you, is any property that I do that is not solely mine has its own LLC, but I'm dealing in 15, 20, 50 unit complexes. And also they have their own bank account. So whichever bank, because a lot of these smaller property, I do a lot of JV. I prefer JV over a syndication. So I don't have the same partners on each of these joint ventures, if you will. So that's hence again why I keep a separate LLC with its own operating agreement, with the partners and blah, blah, blah. So it keeps it clean and also its own set of accounts. And typically, if I'm not using agency debt, even if I am, it's whatever bank I'm utilizing for that asset or portfolio in that market is who I open my accounts with. So a lot of times too, what I'm finding out is when I'm going to get my terms for my loans, it's a local bank, because I'm getting better terms in money, cheaper and easier than trying to get agency debt. Yeah. So there's a little bit more hurdles to jump through. But one of the things to find out is going, hey, I'm going to open an account with you guys. If I don't already have that business relationship, you guys bring this in, guess what? I'm also going to open up a savings and checking account for this property. And any other property you guys open up, we're also going to open up separate ones. And they like that because that's really where they're going to make their money and stuff as well. So they want to keep your money. So just something to think about. And going back to is, so looking at your bookkeeping piece, that is one of my biggest challenges as well. I hate it. I am not a numbers guy. I'm big ideas. I'm an integrator, or I'm not an integrator. I'm a visionary more so. But still, you got to educate yourself. Get some basic bookkeeping. And as soon as you can afford it, outsource it. Get it to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's necessary to have that understanding. You got to know what the other guy's job is, or else you can't steer him in the right direction. Is knowledge.
Yeah.
And I want to touch, Tim, because you brought it up as, your boss says, don't do anything until next year and stuff. Honestly, what I think is important and you should focus on now is build your team. So you don't need to don't worry about, finding properties and stuff. Still find properties, underwrite them, play with them, do the numbers, saying, hey, if I bought this, here's what I would do. Here's how much I'd pay, blah, 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 right? It's great to go through that process, but find you a third-party property management, local contractors. I know you can do a lot of stuff yourself, but if you find 8 to 10 unit, you may not have the time. Right? How much is your time worth? So start that vetting process. Find a couple of 2 to 3 property management companies you like. You don't have to, an attorney, lenders, title companies. Start having those resources. So when you do start looking, then you can automatically go, bam, I've got this property. Wow. Hey, guess what? I'm going to send it over to my potential lender. Hey, here's what I have. You guys interested in this? What kind of terms can you give me? Hey, you write up your LOI, your letter of intent, or your purchase sales agreement. I don't cut and paste. I have an attorney. I pay them good money for each one. For each state, I have one. That's my go-to. Same thing with a lending, our title company for closings. I use the same ones. So the same attorney, the same. So basically, the process becomes streamlined. But I started building that prior to looking for my first property. So that's what I would suggest for you starting out is build those teams, and then also is look for partners. Don't do this on your own, right? Because you're saying 8 units and stuff, and that's great. Because if the numbers make sense, the numbers make sense. But if you can go through and why, because what you won't realize is it's harder for me even now to get a $700,000 loan versus a $1.5 million loan.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's $1 million is what I'm finding, especially with local banks. Finding above it is a lot easier than you think because it's going to rely more on that property.
Yep.
But that being said, is find go to bigger pockets, local real REI, real estate investment group, REITs in your area. Find other like-minded investors.
Yeah.
Yeah, every deal I do, like, so this 20 unit I just talked about, I have 5 other partners on it. We work great. I love it. It's like my dream team is what I call it. So and now any other deal, right? We did this 20 unit, it was small, $1.2 million, right? I'm like, that's small. I used to be like, holy crap, that's a lot of money. But we got it knocked out, like got it taken out. Now we're looking at other properties, bigger unit, and I have my team. So for this thing, we're going to go in and from here on out, we may, in 2 years, we may have 500 units.
Yeah.
Right.
So don't think small, think as a partnership, build your team, and you're going to see how easier this gets and less stressful and less intimidating it is.
Yeah. And one thing that's good about building the team, if you have the lender and you have the property manager, and Colby mentioned it, I mean, you send them the deal, they can help you underwrite it. But one extra tidbit or one extra benefit of building that team is when you send the deal to your property manager and you send your deal to your lender, they're going to look over the numbers and they're going to look at it from a different perspective, and they'll be able to give you feedback on whether or not it's a good deal. I mean, you're going to need these guys to help you manage it and help you finance it, but find somebody that can give you good, honest feedback and say, hey, this is a good deal, or, you know what? Because, the property managers, they see a lot of apartments, lenders see a lot of apartments, and they'll be able to guide you on that part.
So before you put the head in the noose.
Yeah. Before you get the deal under contract. Absolutely. Yeah. Before you get the deal under contract, make sure your lender's looking at it. Make sure your team, your property manager is probably the next important person, but make sure that at least those 2 guys are looking it over. If it's a heavy value add, your contractor should be looking at it.
I'm very fortunate. I have a lawyer that has a title company built into their practice. So
nice.
They're very well known in the area, very well respected. They've done all 3 of my closings. So I'm very fortunate in that. And but the big thing is there's a woman locally, Patty Furman, who owns like a whole bunch of hair cutteries and scads of apartment complexes. And she's been very, very helpful in guiding me mistakes in dealing with tenants who weren't paying and other issues. So I do have that team there, but I need to become more intimate and participate in what she's doing. She's very active, very, very active.
Yep. Very well.
So,
all right. Well, we are about out of time. So I'm going to ask each of you one last question. And Colby, you get to go first. How can listeners learn more about you? Yeah.
So you can find me, look up my company website. It's Veteran Pride Investment Group. It's .org, www.veteranprideinvestmentgroup.org, I believe. Also and I'll be honest, because marketing stuff, I'm more of a doer than a shower. My site's not necessarily up to date per se, but you can still get a hold of me that way. But actually is best way to get a hold of me is colby.bowers@veteranpride.org. Shoot me an email. I get so many requests on social media, LinkedIn, and all that stuff that I don't have a lot of time. I'm focusing on the day-to-day stuff. Want to get my attention, get a hold of me, talk to me, shoot me an email. Gladly talk
All
to
right.
any. Set up phone
And
calls.
we'll put a link to the website, and we'll put your email address in the show notes. So anybody interested in contacting Colby, that's where to find it. And Tim, same question for you. How can people learn more about you?
I probably right on regular Facebook, Tim Dooley, right here in Virginia Beach. But I've got websites for my side business where I turn old junk into lamps, and where it's been a fun project with my daughter who's adopted from China. We donate back to her orphanage, and I like the philanthropic side of what you're doing, Colby. I need to probably do something to create a more professional. LinkedIn would probably be a good start for me, so I'll probably do that very near future.
All right. Look forward to that. Yeah. And definitely, I think LinkedIn's a great place to meet good people, especially when you're doing business stuff. So, all right. That said, thank you guys for coming on the show today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
Brian.
Brian. Wonderful to make contact with you.